Is there a war coming in the Middle East? Are we headed toward a one-world government, a one-world religious system? Will America be attacked again? Do ancient prophetic texts warn of a time we are living in? Are we in the last days, the time of Jacob's trouble, the end of the world as we know it? And what of the increase of UFO sightings? While we may disagree as to what is causing the phenomenon, we can agree that it is real, burgeoning, and not going away. Is this the coming great deception that ancient prophecy warns us about? Does time seem to be accelerating? Join me, your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli, as we explore these and other riveting and stimulating topics. This is Acceleration Radio.
Filling in for your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli, who is busy traipsing across the hills and valleys of Europe, this is Mark Kahn, and you're listening to Acceleration Radio, right here on KGRA. Welcome to Acceleration Radio. Thanks for tuning in. We have so much to talk about tonight, but before we do, I'd like to give you a quick update on LA. If you missed the intro a moment ago and are just now tuning in, by now you've figured out that I'm not LA. My name is Mark Kahn. I'm sitting in for our intrepid host who is currently hot on the trail of the Nephilim somewhere in Europe. I can't reveal too much, but folks, I've got to tell you, some of the stuff that is coming to light right now, a lot of which LA is being instrumental in revealing, is mind-blowing. Simply amazing. Now, if you've been following LA, you know that he's launched a new video series called On the Trail of the Nephilim. There's a new episode that's getting ready to hit. And this is, without any doubt, the most remarkable yet. Now, I'm not given to hyperbole, but this new video called Secrets of the Supernatural, Voices from the Other Side is, in my opinion, a must-see. Just a few days ago, L.A. and I were talking on the phone, and he was giving me the instructions on how to be able to watch a pre-release version. I tuned in there, and it's astounding. This new video, it's going to be released soon. Make sure to check LA's website for the latest info. That's lamarzulli.net, or you can check his blog, lamarzulli.wordpress.com, to order just as soon as it's available. But now there's a couple of things that I'd like for us to take a look at this evening, and we're going to kind of divide our time up this evening in a couple of different sections. But the first is all related to privacy and some of the things that we're seeing coming to light right now. I know that if you've been following the news, there's certainly some startling things that are coming about and some very disquieting, uncomfortable things. The first is, this came out yesterday from, of all places, the Wall Street Journal. Perhaps you saw this story. The headline is, the NSA has improperly collected U.S. phone records a second time. How does that happen? How do you accidentally record phone records again? You know, they promised that they wouldn't do it again. And it looks like they've done it again. Well, what does this actually mean? Well, it means that all of the stuff that people have been talking about that they think is totally private, the texts that they're sharing back and forth with one another, the conversations that they've been having with one another, perhaps they are speaking to their accountant or their lawyer, their pastor, their priest. Yeah, the NSA has all that. Yeah, they've been recording it. And of course, just because now they've said, oopsie, we didn't mean to do that, and we promised that we're going to stop, it doesn't mean that they're going to stop. So, whenever you're thinking about privacy and you're talking to someone and you assume that since no one else is in the room listening, that surely to goodness your conversation with them is totally private, don't be so sure. In all likelihood, there's some dude up there recording it, and at any moment he's going to be able to pull it up and listen to your conversation that you've just had in his headphones and have the entire thing. Now, I don't think that there's somebody over there listening to you talking to your Aunt Martha. But the fact that the NSA has collected all of this information and they've done it again, and they're keeping it again, well, that's a disconcerting idea. So, what's the big deal? Because most of us, honestly, we don't really have that many secrets. Oh, there's some stuff that might be a little embarrassing. But what's the big deal if the NSA knows what we're talking about? Well, first, it's just really none of their business. But secondly, there's something that's, I think, even more devious, something that's darker at work here. Over the years, I've developed a sense of being able to observe various facts that don't seem to be related and find a correlation between these. Sometimes it's an uncomfortable ability. And what we're talking about this evening is one of those instances. I'd like to go down this rabbit hole just a little bit further with you, and then invite you to see if perhaps what I'm seeing might be on the near horizon. You see, there's another story that's just come out yesterday as well. And this one is by Bloomberg Businessweek. And it has as its title, Control Curtains. The premise of the story is that there was a security firm that went into the hotel, and they were going to try to find a way in order to access the hotel network, not the network that you and I use whenever we're staying at a hotel and use their Wi-Fi. But this is the computer network that is underneath of everything else that the employees use, that has all of your information, your bank account in order to check in, your driver's license number, your home address. It has all of that information in it. Well, as it turns out, they were able to gain access to this network through a set of automated curtains. That's right, curtains, like as in drapes that go over the window. You see, there's really no way, and this isn't the first story that's like this. This isn't even the fourth or the fifth story. Every one of us are aware of dozens and dozens of stories, dozens of instances where one network or another, hotel chains, banks, credit card companies, they have your private information, and suddenly it's discovered that it's all available to dark actors on the dark web. And it's available for anybody that has a little bit of money. A high credit card can go for as little as $20 online. Again, what does this really matter? Because most of us, whenever we're checking into a hotel, we'll use a credit card, and the credit card may have a high limit, but most of us know that we're not going to be responsible for the fraudulent use of that card. So what does it really matter if some actor in a foreign country gets a hold of our credit card information and they're able to access it and to use it? We're not going to be out anything. Well, stay with me. You see, there's other stories that I think tie in to this same idea. How about the rise of facial recognition? Now, this should alarm us all. It's alarmed the folks down in San Francisco so much that they've passed an ordinance that it's not able to be used anywhere. Now, as this technology has increased, and the ability for technology to track our movements through the use of publicly available cameras, you got to admit, that's kind of a disconcerting prospect. But as I was thinking about this and looking over some of the recent headlines, I came across several. Here's a selection. Terrifying AI matches DNA to facial recognition databases. Now, how frightening is that? And so you've sent your DNA in, and you're going to be able to find whether or not you are really Irish. And you get your report back and you don't really think anything more about it. Well, now artificial intelligence has been able to take all of this facial recognition software and they've tied it in with your DNA. And so now they know by looking at your DNA what that DNA profile literally looks like. Or how about this one? Most Americans trust facial recognition technology, but Not at the airport. Why not at the airport? I mean, if we're going to trust facial recognition technology, some of you, I use it on my telephone in order to unlock my cell phone. I look at it and it unlocks. I find it very handy. We use facial recognition software. What about whenever people have smart glasses and suddenly facial recognition software is able to recognize your face, and so they get an overlay of their glasses and are able to tell all types of information about you just simply because of this artificial intelligence being able to tie these pieces together? Where are we going with this technology? Well, again, I'd invite you to stay with me for a little bit, because I see some pieces that seem to be unrelated, but that may be painting a picture. You see, whenever we think about this idea of the NSA and other security agencies collecting our private conversations, collecting all of the things that we thought were private, our text messages, our voicemails, our telephone conversations that take place in real time. And the fact that all of these different networks that we have stored our information on, and often the network has stored our information and we're not even aware that it's available to them. You remember about 18 months ago, whenever it was revealed that one of the credit reporting firms had hundreds of millions of people's records, social security numbers, telephone numbers, addresses, everything that a thief would need in order to steal a person's identity. And all of it had been compromised. And most people weren't even aware that this company had their information to begin with. And then we tie that in with this idea of DNA and the fact that artificial intelligence now can match your DNA profile that you've sent in order to find out about your ancestry. And then it can tie in with these facial recognition cameras that are used in so many places. And they're able to tie those together. Microsoft is so concerned about this that they've totally removed all of the hundreds of millions of images that they had available. We know that several of the other larger tech companies, there's a big brouhaha about whether or not they are going to continue to work with police forces in order to allow this information to continue to be available to them. How does this tie together? Well, I came across another interesting headline, and perhaps you've seen that as well. And that is about these DNA-edited babies created by this Chinese scientist. And evidently, from the recent headlines just a few days ago, these two babies weren't alone, but there are others that have also been born. What are we doing? Why would we be creating these modified individuals? Oh, I understand the reasoning that, well, if they have a bad gene, then we're able to edit so that it prevents disease or is able to cure a deformity or something that perhaps is inherited that is undesirable. And it sounds very good. But why is this happening now? And does this actually relate to what we've been talking about over the last few moments? Well, I think that it does. You see, I think that all of this collection of the information and the compilation that we've been talking about and looking at and that we've all experienced, this aggregation of the data, the fact that hackers now can use automatic curtains in a hotel in order to access your information in the hotel database. This rise in facial recognition software where everywhere you go, that if there's a camera, this is tied into these central databases that are collecting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of images, and that artificial intelligence can take the DNA that you've sent in and tie it in with that image. And then this manipulation of the genetic code in order to form these new life forms, these children who have been modified, have been edited, have been altered, in order to have what most would hope would be a more desirable genetic profile. How does this fit together? Well, now, this is my first time with you, and so you really don't know me. I'm a supernaturalist. I believe that one of the easiest ways to make sense of many of the issues that we find here in our lives are explained whenever we understand that there is a supernatural world, there is an unseen dimension that is at work around us all the time, and that in many ways it is much more real than our physical reality that we sense with our senses. And part of this supernatural reality is the idea of prophecy and end-time events. Now, there's theologians, and they call that the study of eschatology. But there's one particular part of prophecy that is particularly intriguing whenever we contemplate all of the different things we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes or so. Whenever we're able to see the prophecies seeming to line up with what we're looking at right now, it paints a picture for us that some might find a little disturbing. Now, folks have different views about some of the pieces of prophecy and eschatology that are found within the Holy Bible. And in fact, many of the people that are listening to this broadcast right now, perhaps you're not particularly into religion or church, but there's some things that we need to understand that seem to make sense of these seemingly unrelated facts. And whether or not you have a background with the church or religion or the Bible, in all likelihood, you've heard of this idea of the mark of the beast. What is the mark of the beast? Oh, people have been trying for years to figure it out. I remember whenever I was a kid, everyone thought that the mark of the beast was going to be the barcode, the UPC symbol, and they didn't want to get their groceries scanned by the lady at the checkout line because they were afraid that they were being part of the mark of the beast system, and they would make sure that she entered the numbers in by hand. I remember back in the 80s, whenever the Soviet Union was still around, there was a guy named Gorbachev. You remember he had the big birthmark on his forehead? I remember reading some crackpot that said that was the mark of the beast because it's on his forehead. People have been trying for years to figure out what the mark of the beast is. But I think that as we take a look at these different pieces, that suddenly we might see a reason that the mark of the beast could be very eagerly embraced. You see, how are we going to protect ourselves whenever all of our private information isn't private anymore? How are you going to protect yourself whenever all of your credit card numbers, as soon as you use them, they're available to anybody and they can fraudulently use them? How are you going to protect yourself whenever they can take a look at your DNA profile and they don't have to have a picture of you? They're able to look it up in a database somewhere. How can you protect your family, your sense of privacy, whenever in fact there doesn't seem to be any privacy anymore? What happens whenever you go down and you're needing to purchase some clothes, or get your kids ready for back to school, or even just take your family out to eat? And you whip out your credit card and you put it through the little machine, and you know that you have plenty of credit left on it, and you hear the little machine go beep, and suddenly they're saying, "I'm sorry, it's declined." I mean, first, that's horrifying. It's really embarrassing. But how do you respond to that? Whenever you never know when that's going to occur, because all of your private information is available to whoever wants it. Or is there really anything that you can even do about it? Well, obviously, we're going to be interested in a solution. How can we protect ourselves? How can we protect our families? How can we protect our privacy? How can we protect our finances? What if it's not just a credit card that they get a hold of, but it's your checking account or a debit card, and suddenly it's not just somebody else's money that's gone, but it's yours. I mean, it's not just the credit card company now that's going to be stuck with the bill and having to pay for it, but it's gone from your bank account. Or, we've become so dependent now upon all of these assistants. I'm not going to say any of their names because I don't want to activate any of your devices, but you know what I'm talking about. We don't need to turn on lights anymore or do anything. We just simply say the name and we can order stuff and turn on lights and close garage doors. Well, all of this is connected. And what happens whenever these same people who've got your credit card number and your social security number, they know your address and your bank PIN, whenever they now have access to the inside of your home, to those convenient cameras that you have on your front door, to all of those devices that are monitoring on the inside. I was even down at a local store and they have smart refrigerators. Why you need a refrigerator that has a computer in it, I really don't know. But now the refrigerator keeps an ingredient list for all of your recipes, and they can have a list of contents that it has inside the refrigerator, and so you can tell it to print out a shopping list for you so you're able to have all of your goodies. What happens whenever the bad guys have all of that information as well? What happens whenever they have access to your smart lock? Whenever they know the code in order to get into your garage? They can be sitting halfway across the world and know all of the details of your life with just a few clicks of a computer mouse, a little bit of Bitcoin or some transfer of some cash that doesn't seem to be of any consequence at all, and they have your entire life. How are we going to protect that? Well, obviously, as I mentioned a moment ago, we need something, some way to protect that. But how? Well, I think that we find some interesting connections with biblical prophecy that gives us a clue. Now, before we get in to examine that clue, we're going to take a small break. We're going to hear from our sponsor. But whenever we come back, we're going to tie all of these pieces together, and then we're going to continue the conversation as we look into some of the latest revelations on UFOs. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Food was different 60 years ago. It was minimally processed, free of pesticides. It was nourishing and healthful for your body. Today, GMOs, pesticides, herbicides, and heavy processing have depleted the nutrition of our food supply, which takes a toll on our health and energy. It's harder than ever to get the right nutrition. That's what Life Change Tea is meant to counteract. Our specially blended, powerful herbal formulas can give you more energy without caffeine. It's a mild cleanse, a mild daily detox. A good detox can help revive and bring back the energy of your youth. GetTheTea.com is the website. It'll cleanse you from the inside out with this herbal proprietary formula. Go to GetTheTea.com. There's no fillers, no GMOs. It's organic. Not available in stores. You must go to their website, GetTheTea.com. And their supplements are a great way to maintain your health. Read the testimonials on the website. Go to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
By Jingoes, it's amazingly fresh and clean out here in beautiful New Zealand. G'day America, I'm Tabi, and I want to tell you about my new ultimate stain and odour remover, Jingoes. My Jingoes gunk gobblers will tackle stubborn organic stains and eliminate nasty stinking odours at the same time. Jingoes effectively removes those little accidents like wine, coffee, dirt, blood, grass, even pet stains, and odours like fish, garlic, even skunk. Jingoes is environmentally friendly, safe for use on fabrics, carpet, upholstery, and it works great as a laundry pre-soak on the worst pet or people accidents. Come on, America, what are you waiting for? Just go online and order your Jingoes for $12.95 and get a 4-ounce travel pack free. Crikey, pay $19.95 and I'll double your order. That's 2 large Jingoes and 2 travel packs for just $19.95.
For the thousands of wounded warriors returning from battle, Wounded Warrior Project has developed the Warriors to Work program, a career counseling service that helps wounded warriors translate their military experience to a civilian job. These extraordinary men and women bring more than just teamwork and inspiration to the workplace. They bring proven world-class job skills. And to ensure proper placement, Wounded Warrior Project works with employers to find just the right job fit. Talented, skilled, and eager to get back to work, you have the opportunity to hire a seasoned veteran. Contact Wounded Warrior Project at findwwp.org. Welcome home the brave.
Where will you be this September 13th through the 15th if you are a critical thinker seeking answers to questions like,
what are aliens?
Are they demons?
Or visitors from other worlds?
Do they have an agenda? And if so, how do we stop them from interfering in our lives? Then the place you need to be is Branson, Missouri, inside the Mansion Theater, as Gen 6 Productions presents The True Legends Answering the Alien Question Conference 2019, featuring writer, explorer, and filmmaker Timothy Alberino, author, lecturer, and filmmaker L.A. Marzulli, and UFO researcher Richard M. Dolan, UFO investigator Chase Kletzky, investigative reporter George Knapp, world-renowned researcher and author Steve Quayle, and many more. Reserve your seats or order live streaming now at gen6.com. That's GENSIX.com.
Your official contact for the best alternative talk on the planet. KGRAradio.com.
Welcome back. Now, just before the break, we were talking about several of these different ideas that at the surface don't really seem to go together. We have this idea of privacy protection and the challenge of safeguarding our own personal information, financial information, information about our homes. We have this idea of facial recognition, and to make it a little more dramatic, the way that artificial intelligence now is being used to tie in DNA, your genetic code, with the facial recognition images that have been collected on you throughout the world in your just daily travels. And then we have the problem of the genetic modification taking place in China. Well, how do these all fit together? And what can we do in order to safeguard ourselves and safeguard our privacy and try to protect our families, try to protect our financial information? I believe this is where we find all of these pieces beginning to coalesce, and we find it, oddly enough, in Scripture, in the Bible, in prophecy. You see, there's this idea that we mentioned, the mark of the beast, that people have for years been trying to figure out exactly what that was. Why would people willingly accept something that was going to brand them, that was going to mark them? Well, what if they were to view this mark of the beast as actually a good thing? What if in some way they were able to create a biological marker, some way to either enhance or modify your genetic code, so that rather than having to know passwords or PIN numbers or fingerprints, that your body itself, your biology, your genetics, was what actually identified you as, well, as you. Suddenly, if the advent of something of that nature, that type of technology were to come along, we can see how it would be very seductive. Because suddenly, no one would be able to replicate you, because you are unique. And if you are modified in such a way that your being yourself, your genetics, is what would unlock your cell phone, your house. It was what would be giving you access to your bank records, to your credit card. And suddenly, no one could just simply hack into a database and steal some passwords and then have access to your financial life. As implausible as this scenario sounds, as we mentioned from the genetic modifications taking place in China, this is an all too real reality. And the scriptures, the prophecies, tell of horrifying events that befall these people who actually accept this mark. It's one thing to be aware of. It's something that I see taking place on the horizon. Now, let's shift gears a little bit and go in a slightly different direction. We've been watching with great interest over the course of the last weeks and months since really the fall of 2018. The seems like planned disclosure of the UFO phenomenon. Now, if you've been following L.A. Marzulli for any length of time, you know that he has had his thumb on the pulse of what's taking place in this UFO phenomenon. You're aware of many of the things that he has researched, many of the topics that he has brought. In fact, you've probably heard over the course of the last few weeks him talking about some of these very things. But I would like to take this in a slightly different direction. And you see, something that has occurred just in the last week or so is that there are senators now who are requesting to receive security briefings on the UFO encounters that the Navy is reporting. These senators are requesting private, top-secret meetings with naval intelligence, with Pentagon officials, with higher military leaders. And they're demanding answers. What's going on in the skies that are above us? What's taking place? Why is it that we can't seem to get these answers? These and many other questions. They're being briefed. President Trump has been briefed, and suddenly it seems as if there are governmental officials who have just now suddenly discovered this UFO phenomenon, and they're all clamoring to try to find out exactly what's going on. Why the sudden interest? Now, I recognize that there are some television programs that are out right now dealing with these topics. In fact, we're going to talk about some of those in just a moment. But are television programs enough to suddenly cause high-level governmental officials to demand these top-secret briefings from Pentagon officials? Is it because of a television program? Senator Mark Warner has had a spokesperson make a statement. And in that statement, she mentioned if naval pilots are running into unexplained interference in the air, that's a safety concern Senator Warner believes we need to get to the bottom of. Do you think that might be a good idea? But why the sudden interest? Is it these television programs that are causing all of this interest? Now, many of you're listening to this right now. You've been following this phenomenon for years. You've been saying that there's something out there and something that needs to be explained. And I know that you've been frustrated by the seeming inaction of the different governmental entities around the world. Why is it that suddenly we're seeing all of this interest? Even President Trump seems to have this sudden interest. Why now? As L.A. has mentioned many times before, I believe that we're on the cusp of some type of a disclosure. Now, I'm of the opinion that we may find a disclosure of several different kinds. I think that some of the things that different people see are, in fact, high-level, highly classified, top-secret military aircraft. There's no doubt that's what some of them are seeing. I have a man that just not too long ago retired from the United States Air Force, and while he wasn't terribly high in rank, he had access and was on the flight line, and he saw things that he said that even now he can't reveal. He said that he knows of aircraft that are operating that no one else knows anything about. Now, if a regular guy that's part of the United States Air Force is aware that there's aircraft that aren't in the public sphere, what really could be out there? So I think part of the disclosure that we may be getting ready to see is just simply a revelation of some of the highly classified top secret military aircraft that have been operating for a number of years. I do think, though, that we're looking at something else as well. Something that is much more insidious, and it would appear that there are many within the UFO community, these military officials, who are aware of something else taking place. There's a television program that's on. It's on the History Channel. And as part of the programming that history normally shows, this particular program deals specifically with high-level governmental officials, and they've decided that they're fed up with waiting for the government to reveal what it is, and so they're going to reveal it themselves. Perhaps you've seen it. It's called Unidentified: Inside America's UFO Investigation. It's a fascinating documentary, fascinating television program. I've really enjoyed watching it over the course of the last few weeks. And some of the things that they're revealing are truly eye-opening. But I guess I have to sit back and wonder, would a person who has that level of clearance, would a person who has that level of information suddenly make a decision to walk away from that and begin to talk on national television about these incidents involving UFOs. Let me tell you, from what I know of the intelligence community, and I know a bit about it, you don't just simply walk away and start spilling the beans. These are individuals who are incredibly well trained. They're very loyal. And they're not about to go out and start telling these inside secrets. And should you have someone decide to go rogue, these are the kind of people who suddenly end up gone, disappeared, missing. So how is it that we can find on the History Channel individuals talking about these investigations that are taking place and the highest levels of secrecy? Now, L.A. has talked about it before, how even on the Tucker Carlson program on Fox News has had some of these individuals and has shown video that have been taken from fighters about some of these UFO encounters. How do you explain that? And now suddenly we have these governmental officials beginning to talk. Could it be that they're preparing to release information? They're preparing for a disclosure that goes beyond just the simple explanation of military aircraft, and they're getting ready to reveal something that is even more startling and more frightening. Many are familiar with the previous UFO investigations and some of the things that they warned about. One of those things was that they feared that religious fundamentalists, Christians, would somehow panic if it would be revealed that there would be alien life. Well, it seems like the exact same fear is playing out yet again. On the June 14th episode of Unidentified on the History Channel, we find several different quotes towards the end of the episode that I would like to point out, and let's think through what these individuals are actually saying. The first one is made by Brian Bender. He's a national security correspondent with Politico. And here's what he says. Some officials I talked to told me that they thought there was resistance in the Pentagon on religious grounds, that effectively you had some senior officers who were Christians who thought looking into this kind of, quote, voodoo stuff was dangerous. Now, let's think through what Brian Bender just said. He says that there are high-level Pentagon officials who are Christians and who somehow want to be intellectually kept in the dark. They don't want to know what's going on. They think that it's dangerous to do some sort of investigation. Almost as if it's painting these, quote, Christians as being anti-science and anti-intellectualism. We have another quote. It's by the main character. His name is Lou Elizondo. He's the former director of Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, it's known as ATIP, for the Pentagon. And he was a senior counterintelligence officer with the U.S. Department of Defense. Now, Lou Elizondo, this guy is aware of the stuff that has been going on. He knows these things. And here's some of the things that he has to say towards the end of that episode. I was pulled into the office of one of these seniors. The senior looked at me in the eye and said, "I want this program to stop." I said, "Well, okay, but what's the rationale?" And he said, "Well, what you are looking at is something that is a demonic presence." So according to Lou Elizondo's testimony in this episode, he said he was talking face-to-face with a senior Pentagon official, and this official told him that these craft, these UFOs that they're looking at, are demonic. Now here's what Lou Elizondo said just a little bit later in response to that idea. "You're telling me to ignore it because it goes against your philosophical belief system. Well, that's the same blank they face in Afghanistan and the Middle East. There's no difference. Only you're wearing a three-piece suit and they're carrying a Kalashnikov." So I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And so he's in total disbelief that this senior Pentagon official tells him what you're looking at is demonic. And he doesn't want to believe that. And in my mind, I'm wondering, could it be that this senior Pentagon official may be aware of things that Lou Elizondo has not yet been exposed to? Could it be that he's aware, not from a philosophical or a faith-based viewpoint, but this senior Pentagon official is aware from a reality standpoint? Another quote taken from this same episode. It's a guy named George Knapp. He's an investigative journalist with KLAS TV in Las Vegas. Here's what he says. "There is a faction in the government high up in the Pentagon of religious fundamentalists who are concerned that anything paranormal or supernatural is demonic in origin, that flying saucers represent demons, that if you study this, that you're inviting the devil and Satan into your world." Now, these gentlemen obviously are very concerned about what's going on. They're concerned that in their minds they think that somehow religious radicalism, fundamentalism, Christian zealots are hindering them from being able to investigate these strange phenomena. Elizondo says that his superiors' religious beliefs have hindered his mission to get the government to take UFOs seriously. There's another gentleman who's also interviewed in this same episode. His name is John Podesta. He was an advisor to President Obama and the chief of staff to President Clinton. And so to say that he may have access to high-level information would be an understatement. Here's what he says. "There's a natural tendency to just kind of sweep the question away and to avoid the taboo. We've created a culture where you really can't do what any scientist would want to do, any skeptic in the best sense of the word, saying, well, maybe we ought to know about it." So they're tying this idea of denial in, and the resistance towards finding out more information. They're trying to tie this in to some type of a Christian belief system, some type of religious zealotry. I wonder if these guys are aware of what L.A. Marzulli has been doing for the last 30 years. He's been the one that's been blowing the horn the loudest, trying to get someone to wake up and to take this idea of UFOs seriously. And oh, by the way, he's a Christian. That's right. He and many others just like us, for many years, have been trying to get someone to pay attention to what's going on. We've been warning churches, Christians, whoever would listen to us, that the UFO phenomenon is real, that there's something going on out there, and it's not good. And now, suddenly you have this television program with high-level governmental officials, high-level, top-secret information being shared. And they're saying that the Christians are the ones who have been resistant to releasing the information. Now, I know a lot of Christians. I know that you and I are just getting to know one another as I'm filling in here for LA. But I'm a biblical researcher, I'm a professor at a Christian university, and I'm a pastor of a local church. And for many years, I've been warning the congregation that I pastor that something is taking place in the skies above us. And some of it's military hardware that we haven't seen yet. But some of it is insidious in nature. Some of it is diabolical. That there is something going on. The Holy Bible calls Satan the prince and the power of the air. Now, that's not a title that's given by accident. Throughout all of history, there have been reports of flying objects that no one could explain. We can look at medieval paintings, and there in the paintings are these objects that don't seem to belong. And I know that many people have tried to use different types of methodologies to discover what it is that we're looking at. They've tried to explain it away using naturalistic means or by blaming it on some type of extraterrestrial life. I think the life that we're looking for is something that ancient literature tells us a great deal about. Many times, though, we've dismissed it because that ancient literature also tells us a lot of religious pieces. And so since it's religious in nature, we have to dismiss it. We can't really take it seriously when it comes to dealing with this phenomenon. I think that this religious literature, the Bible, has a great deal to reveal about what is actually taking place in the skies above us and in the world around us. And in the skies above us, seeming to operate with impunity, we find these craft, these UFOs, these unidentified flying objects, going back and forth, performing maneuvers that none of our hardware are able to perform, something that our best pilots have never been able to see before, and yet they're doing it with ease. What is going on? I believe we're getting ready to find out. We're going to see some disclosure. I think they've already started that. We watch it on the news. We look at it like we've talked about this evening on this History Channel program. We're beginning to see disclosure. Don't be fooled whenever suddenly they say, well, this is just military aircraft operating in the skies above us and it's been classified. I'm sure that that's at least part of it. I'm also sure that there is something else taking place, that there's a supernatural explanation to many of these events. And we have literature that talks about this supernatural reality that is more real than the physical reality that we're able to sense. So as they begin disclosure, don't you be deceived by thinking that the Christians are the ones that are going to be panicking whenever suddenly the supernatural reality, the supernatural existence of these UFOs is revealed. It's not going to be the Christians that are going to be surprised. The Christians have known about this all along. The Christians have understood that Satan, the dragon, the oppressor, the deceiver, well, he's the prince and the power of the air. And we've known about that for literally thousands of years. It's not a surprise. The Christians are not going to be the ones that are surprised. The religious people, they're not the ones that are going to be surprised. Instead, I fear that it's those who try to deny the supernatural aspect of what's going on and try to explain it away by any naturalistic means possible. It's those people that I'm most concerned about, because whenever the supernatural realm is revealed, the supernatural nature of these UFOs is finally revealed, how does that impact their reality? You see, for our reality, well, it's all explained in the Bible. It's something that we've been aware of for a long time. But whenever you deny the Bible, then how do you suddenly explain supernatural phenomenon? Until next time, this is Mark Kahn. Thanks for listening to Acceleration Radio.
You have been listening to Acceleration Radio Live, and any rebroadcast or duplication of this program or program content without express written permission from the KGRA-DB or L.A. Marzulli himself is strictly prohibited. The Acceleration Radio Show with L.A. Marzulli, in direct cooperation with the internet website kgraradio.com. To find more on L.A., visit his website at lamarzulli.net.